Well, I trust the songs of that won the war enabled you to spend some time and reflect on those who have sacrificed their lives for us. And right now I have in the studio Stephen, Pastor Stephen.
Yep, Pastor Stephen.
From
Wellard Community Church.
Wellard Community Church. And Stephen, I believe you've been through a journey.
An incredible journey. Something which never, you're not prepared for, something you don't plan for. In a nutshell, last year I was diagnosed with AML, acute myeloid leukemia. Came out of nowhere. Was a huge surprise, but for me it was just the journey and how I went through it, and the fact that I almost died a number of times through the process was completely transformed my life, changed my way of thinking and doing things, and just literally has made me an incredibly more positive, excited, happy person to be here and to share this journey as much as I can.
Right, and you were a Christian before you.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So it was your faith that sort of helped you through this journey?
Absolutely. I mean, part of the journey, when people say to me, this must have been tough. And back in September, October 21, I started feeling unwell. I wasn't quite sure what was wrong. And I started going to my doctor. I'd had my second jab, so I thought this must be the jab that's making me feel unwell. Yep. And so I pressed on and tried to understand what was wrong. And the doctor got me a referral to Charles Gardner Hospital in May, and something inside of me just said to me, "You'll be dead in May." And I'm like, no, me, not a chance. That's not going to happen. Yeah. So I decided to go to a private hematologist just to have a look at my bloods and see if there was something wrong. And that's when in February I got a phone call at 9:30 in the morning to say, "You've been diagnosed with AML, and it's something which we now need to start treating you immediately." But that morning at 6:30, I stay at Perth Bible College. I've been there for a number of years. I'm studying theology there and doing my bachelor's at the moment. And that morning at 6:30, I woke up. I got given this incredible picture and a vision that a lighthouse doesn't move out of the way of the storm. And I was trying to figure out, what does this mean? Because a lighthouse is there because of the storm. It is there as a purpose to warn and to let everybody know that there are rocks. You got to be careful of this journey. And that was at 6:30 in the morning. At 9:30, I got the call from the doctor to say I had AML, and I realized in that moment that the lighthouse picture for me was I was not to be concerned or worried about the circumstances or the situation, but I was to focus completely on my faith and put all my trust in God that He was going to take care of this and look after the journey for me.
Right.
And that's what I did from that moment. I had no fear. I never worried about what was going to happen. I put all my trust in God that He would look after me through this journey. And I started my treatment in March, and it was quite intensive. The idea was to completely remove my immunity and then get me to literally, my body to naturally bring my immunity back. But they were going to do this 5 times.
Right.
And every single time they do that to me, the idea was that I needed to be sort of semi-isolated. But in my heart, I knew that I couldn't do that. I needed to go back to church. I needed to be in community with people. Even though I had no immunity, I knew that God would protect me and look after me. So I went and stood at the front of the church and hugged every single person that arrived at church. And this was my way of actually physically practicing my faith and sort of saying that I know that I'm going to be okay. So the other important thing is that when I started my journey, I was in hospital and I'd read Genesis. I'd read about Abraham quite a bit and about the idea that God changed his name and called him Abraham, which would be a father of many nations. He was calling something into existence that didn't exist at that point in time. So that principle I used when I was lying in hospital, when my temperature was up at 39, 40 degrees. I was shivering. I was completely shaken, and nothing I could do could stop it. And then I kept on declaring that my temperature was 36.6, even though it was 40. I kept on saying that my blood pressure was 120/80, even though it was skyrocketing. I kept on saying that I would have no side effects, that I would have no pain, and that by his stripes I'd be healed. The incredible thing is, I had 7 days of constant chemotherapy when I started my treatment. Then I had 26 high intensive doses. It's called high DAC, where I'm a big guy. So if you're going to take down an elephant, you use a big round. So they gave me a big dose of chemo, and I never suffered any side effects. I never got nauseous. I never got sick. I never got any of the things that if you speak to somebody, they will go, hey, listen, you're going to get this. No, I didn't. So by faith, I stood on every single day and I just said, thank you, God, that that you've got me, that I'm going to walk this. The doctors never understood how it was possible that I was going through this journey as if I was not actually there. And I would lie in hospital staring up at the ceiling, but I wasn't looking at the ceiling. I was looking beyond the ceiling. That was just, the physical in the room. I knew that I was okay. And one of the big things is on the 7th of August, I spent the Saturday the 6th, I went out to see a friend, and at 9:30 I got home. I went straight to bed, and that night I got neutropenic sepsis. What actually happened was my temperature went up to 41. My organs started failing. I didn't wake up in the morning. I was literally dying at home. And the friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Nadia, she found out that I didn't arrive at church that morning. So phoned a friend of mine who immediately phoned the police and said, you've got to go and find him. You've got to go to his house because something is wrong. And the police came round to my house. It was about 12:30. I heard this noise, and I looked up and I saw there's two policemen at the side door. So I went and opened the door, and they said to me, do you know what's going on? Do you know where you are? Do you know what's happening? And I didn't. I was completely out of it at that point in time. My temperature was way high. My organs were failing. They called an ambulance. They rushed me to hospital. And about 2 o'clock, I went into a coma. And by 4:30, they declared that I was going to die that day. In fact, they said, get hold of his family, get everyone around him. He will not make it tonight. I had no blood pressure. I was in a complete state of sepsis shock, and I was out of it. And that evening, someone got hold of CRC Church in Wangara and said, hey, listen, Pastor Stephen's actually in a really bad way. He's on his way out. We need to pray for him. And the most incredible thing happened. An hour later, I woke up.
Gee.
I woke up and I went, wow, and I knew what was going on around me. The doctor said to me, do you know where you are? And I said, yep, I'm a junior lip emergency. I've got neutropenic sepsis. It is Sunday, and I'm probably not doing really well. And they said, no, you're not. So I said, well, and then they said to me, we want to put you in a coma for the next couple of days. And I said, you don't have to. I said, I'm awake now, so I'm actually going to be okay. And they said, what do you mean you're going to be okay? I said, I'm actually going to be okay. And I just knew that moment that I was going to be okay. And they said, well, you are incredibly sick. We've got you on a constant adrenaline pump. And I had this picture in my mind of someone sort of sticking a big needle in my chest, to keep me going. But I actually had a constant pump. There was about 6 or 7 drips in me where they were trying to press these bags to get my blood pressure up. But God had said to me that moment, Stephen, I've got you. You're going to be okay. They took me down to ICU. I spent, that was the Sunday night. By Wednesday, they started taking me off all of the ICU material, medications, all of the lines. By Wednesday evening, I was sitting up in my bed as if nothing had happened.
Gee.
And and the doctor kept on saying, you're doing so well, but I don't know how. But you are still very sick. And I said, don't worry, this is going to be good. I've got this. God's got me in this whole process. And I eventually was stepped down that Saturday into a normal ward, and I went off the following week for an appointment at Charles Gardner's Hospital. And the doctor sat there saying to me, Steve, looking at the numbers and looking at what's going on here, you shouldn't be sitting here. You should be, you should still be in a hospital bed. And it was just incredible how throughout my entire journey, no matter what happened, I always recovered incredibly quickly as far as from things are concerned. I I had 2 events like this, which was quite incredible, and I knew that along the way, I mean, I'd had, right in the beginning, God had given me Isaiah 41:10, which was, fear not, for I'm with you. So I knew that I never needed to worry. I also knew that I could do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So I held on to those things, and there was one thing I really did was I believed from a mental health point of view, from a mind point of view, that being positive was actually one of the biggest things that actually helped me through this journey. Right. There's a song called Jireh, and there's a line inside there that says, I'll be content under any circumstance. So I decided that when I was diagnosed with my leukemia, that I was going to be content under any circumstance. I was not going to allow anything to actually make me negative. If I pressed the bell in the hospital and the nurse took an hour to get there, she took an hour to get there. That was not going to take hold of me, and I was not going to get upset about that. I wasn't going to make my circumstances the focus of my life. I was going to keep, and I believe that was a massive, massive thing, that the mind shift, the mental shift, and the process of actually focusing on ensuring that I acknowledged every single person that came into my room, that I connected with every single person there, and I showed respect to everybody. And the idea was that I was trying to show is that if I could focus on that and share the love of God through everything I was doing, then there's a purpose for me being here. There's a purpose for me actually surviving this significant, and it was catastrophic. I mean, I looked, when people say to me, how did you actually go through this? And the most crazy thing about it was that I wasn't there. It was like I'd handed this on. It wasn't my problem. I knew that all I needed to do was be the light that I was called to be, share the word of God, share the love of God through everything that I was doing, and He would take care of everything else for me. So by faith, that's what I did. And that changed me. It made me incredibly happy. It made me incredibly positive. I also knew straight away that it didn't matter if I died, because I knew where I was going. I knew that that I'd done the best that I could do, but that it wasn't about me. It wasn't in my hands. I never worried. I had no fear. I had no anxiety. I had no stress about this, because I knew that I needed to focus on where I was going and not on the circumstances. Now, it's hard, because people say to me that you're somebody that has a lot of mental strength and a lot of strong emotion, and I would say, you know what? No, I think I made a decision to do this. I actually made a physical decision that I was going to be positive no matter what the story was. I made a physical decision that I declared every day that whatever my circumstances were, that wasn't the reality that I was going to accept. I kept on declaring, and I've done this. I've spoken to people who are struggling with sugar diabetes, and I would say to them, you know what, here's a daily prescription for you. Every day declare that your sugar, and say thank you, that your sugar is going to be between 5 and 6. It doesn't matter whether it's 7 or 8, because if you do that every single day, eventually your sugar will come down to between 5 and 6. And this has been shown through some people that I've actually been speaking to and all the rest. And I believe that the journey that I've gone through has put me in a position where I want to share this with people. I want to say, you know what, your attitude towards your illness, your attitude towards your recovery is incredibly important. The words that you use, I believe that it can have an effect, and it had an effect on my immune system. It had an effect on my recovery, and I believe that that the words we use are incredibly important, and choosing the right language and how we speak about things really makes a difference in our lives as well.
Yep. But so you never actually prayed for your healing? It was just
no. I never asked, please will you heal me? I never asked that. It was the most incredible thing, because I already knew that I was going to be healed. I knew that, so that by His stripes I'm healed. So, hey, that was it. I knew I was healed. I could have said to them after my first treatment, stop, don't do any more. But the deal with the doctor was, and I said to him, you treat me and God will heal me. So I will do whatever you ask me to do. I will go through the treatment process the way you're asking me. And I believe I understand that I have leukemia. Understand that that you're going to treat me in a certain way, but I know that God will heal me. So I didn't have to ask that. I actually just knew that was going to be there. So that was something which is quite incredible. And the other idea behind it is that I was walking the other day, and this was strengthening. I was walking the other day along the beach at Hillary's, and a fish was washed up right in front of me on the sand. The fish was lying there, and I instinctively picked up the fish. I didn't phone a friend to ask, should I pick up the fish? I didn't Google, what must I do? I picked up the fish and I put it straight back into the water. And in that second was this whole this revelation that wow, that's what God does. He knows exactly what I need. He puts me back. When I'm out of all sorts, He puts me back in alignment. He puts me back in the water, and that's how my journey's been. That's how my life has been, and I believe that. And I get up every single day, incredibly excited about the day, because I know that there's going to be some amazing, crazy, exciting things are going to happen, because I'm ready for them.
Mm. And God didn't save you to sit around and do nothing.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think in life when we go through something quite significant, it's because there's a significant journey to actually be had after that. And I believe I get angry that that people are dying of cancer. I mean, there's so many people that are struggling with cancer, and I go like, wow, I want to go out and I want to speak to people. I want to go and share, that. Not everyone's going to get, not everyone's going to get saved. Not everyone's going to get healed. Some people are going to die. This is, a pastor died this week. He reached out to me from Fiona Stanley Hospital. He had actually seen my testimony online, and he heard about my journey, and he just wanted to speak to me and say, he's just been diagnosed with leukemia again, and sadly, 3 weeks later, he had passed away. But this is part of what I believe my journey is to be from going forward, is to share the message that that our attitude towards things, that our decisions that we make, that the words that we use ultimately will be the building blocks of our life. And and by faith, if you believe that your temperature or your sugar or your blood pressure is going to be a certain thing, and you believe by faith, that is exactly what is going to take place, and that's what happened with me.
So, do you believe you're speaking it into being?
Absolutely, I believe that the idea behind calling something into existence that is not. So, I was lying there shivering. I had 8 blankets on me. In fact, they were bringing me warm blankets. I had this massive pile of me, and I was still ice cold, and I was still shivering, and my temperature was still 40 degrees, but I was declaring thousands of times that my temperature is 36.6, my blood pressure is 120/80. It didn't matter what my current circumstances were, because I was calling, because I knew that there was a version of me whose temperature was 36.6. I knew that, I actually, the idea behind that, in fact, I had this crazy picture that if Jesus had to auction me off, he would say, this is Steve is new. This is the new Stephen. Whereas the old Stephen was lying here shivering and all the rest. And I was basically calling Stephen to, the one who wasn't shivering, the one that wasn't going to this, into the year and now by faith, that my temperature would change. And that is eventually what my temperature did do. It changed, and it went back down to, and every single time when they did my temperature and it was 36.6, I got so excited, because yay, this is really important. But I think that I believe that that there's nothing special about me. There's nothing unique about me. I declared that I would have no side effects, that I would have no pain, that I would be 100% fine, and that's exactly what I was. Now, if we put 1,000 people in a room and we ask every single one of them, what do you think it's going to be like going through chemotherapy and going through the journey? They're going to tell you that you're going to get sick, you're going to be nauseous, you're going to be in pain, you're going to get all of these things. And what was special about me? It's not. What was special was that I looked at this as a faith journey. I handed this to God, and I said to Him, "This is yours. I'm going to be obedient through this process. But by faith, I believed that I would not get nauseous, that I would not get any side effects, and that I would not suffer any pain. And that's exactly what had happened for me. So that's incredible.
Right. So what does the future hold for Pastor Steve?
Well, I'm going to be launching a website fairly soon where I'm actually going to be just giving away a free ebook, which will actually just outline my journey and the principles of faith that I applied. I am currently preaching at Wellard Community Church, which I'm really happy. So I'm local in the area for now, and then I'm hoping that I get to go out and preach in the United States at some point in time.
Right.
That's something which is on my heart. So when I heard about coming onto your radio, I was really excited about that, because the fact that some of your audience is across the States, and I don't know, there's just something inside of me that God told me about a year ago to get down to 2 suitcases, and that's exactly what I've done. I've actually completely unburdened my life, and I intend to spend the rest of my life sharing the message that the kingdom of God is here right now, and that there is the love, there is the glory, there is everything in this, and I want to teach people and help them walking through the journey, that when they're going through the cancer or any sickness, and just speak to them and share with them that there is another way. There is a way that if you speak the right words, if you apply your faith, if you apply that, then the outcome will be different, significantly different. It'll be different for every single person, but I know that God equipped each and every one of us with a mechanism to heal ourselves, and if we speak the right words and we speak that journey over ourselves, if we speak life, then we stand a really good chance of living.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yep, very good. Well, thanks very much for coming and sharing, Pastor Stephen, and we look forward to hearing good reports about the future.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. This has really been, it's a privilege and an honor to be here, so I'm really glad.
Very good.
Thank you very much
for sharing.
Thank you.